this module, we're going to talk about how to create a quote. We're assuming that the general settings have been completed for this company, in as much as we have an asset and we have a rate for that asset. So we might go through and just double check those things to make sure they're in place. Otherwise, setting up a quote won't work. We've already set up our client. We go into our assets and we make sure that we have an asset with a subtype. Let's look at an articulated dump truck, 40 tons, a DT06. We'll go into our rate setup for the articulated dump truck 40 ton. I can view that, and then we'll put some rates in. We're going to put a minimum hourly rate of 55, day rate of 450, week rate of 2,000. These are all made up rates, obviously. A month rate of 10,000, single item of 1. That single item of 1 allows me to get out of jail with any issues that I need to put with XX charges and whatnot. In my minimum rate, this is where I've done my calculations and I know exactly how much it cost me to run that asset. So let's say 50, let's say 400, let's say 1990, let's say 9,000, and in there 1 again. I go ahead and save. I'm pretty cool with my rates now. I know that I can set up a hire for a 40-ton dump truck. I can put some transport and labour items in there if I wish. I won't do it now though, because we want to get on with building a quote. So I'll come to my quote. All my existing quotes are here. They always stay there, whether they've been sent to the client, accepted, cancelled, whatnot. That way I've got this huge database of quotes that I've sent out that I can pull down upon at any time I want. In this case though, we are going to set up a new quote. So I go to add quote at the top. Division is something that we use within FleetTrack. In most cases you would only have the one division, but we'll say plant hire in this case. We'll say the start date for the hire is next Monday, and the end date for the hire, let's say, is late September 24th. The salesperson we'll say is Ali. Any notes we want to put about this particular quote, these are the funnies that come up. There's always something that's a little bit different. And we will say that on this particular quote, we're going to give them a 3% discount. Remember, if there's a company that you already use, the default discount will apply. So let's go ahead and set up a client. Now we know that testing code exists here. The contact in there is Tim Smith. We'll say that the site contact is Tim Smith. We might actually be adding a contact there, because although a company might have the main contact you deal with, the site contact will almost inevitably be different. We'll say that the address is in Mooloolaba or wherever we want to say. The important thing is that we get the time zone right. So let's say it's in Smith Street, Victoria. Great, we've got that. The time zone that we're going to actually be using for that would be Australia, Melbourne. The reason that the time zone is so important, because our trackers tell you what that asset is doing. You will be potentially be posting stand downs for those assets, so it really is important that the time zones line up. Otherwise, a stand down received before or after the cutoff means that they will get charged or won't get charged. That's why the time zone is so important. It's one of the only start items. I go on to save that. The first page of my quote is done. I can now go on and add assets. Just bear in mind the pricing component is here. When we start to add assets, I'm going to add a 40-ton dump truck, because that's what we've just loaded up. Description is dry hire. We've got our start and end dates. The reason that these are editable here is that when we're adding multiple items, they might not all be on the entire contract. So it's quite important that we allow in here that we can mix and match. If we've got attachments that are constantly defaulted, they will show up here. If we want to add another attachment from our list, we can add them here. We can also make sure that those attachments are an item on the invoice and you get paid for them accurately. So in there, the rate that we're putting on it is hourly. Less unlikely that we're going to do it that way. So let's go on and say we're going to do it on weekly. 15 weeks, 30 grand, that's what it's going to be. If we want to put it on wet hire, we can check here and start to add those items. In this case, we already said it's dry hire, it's not. As you can see, we have a great setup to make that work. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So I now have that asset. If I want to add another asset, I just go through and press save and add that as well. Might put in a bit of transport here. Also, the transport item is one that we've already set up. In this case, we'll use transport of plant. We don't need a description. The start date would generally be just delivery, so we'll put the end date the same, 15th, single item. We can change this to how we want it. Say it's 550. I now have transport for delivery added to that quote. If I want to put labor in, I can do the same. Don't think we need to do that because it's dry hire. Go to my details. You should see that information is now showing up here. If we go back in, because we want to have a look at the asset and decide that they want to do it on a different way, we can edit that up. We can go to hours. We can say that they're going to do 8 hours a day expected, and therefore I earn a little bit more money off hourly. There's obviously a risk associated with doing it that way, as you would know within your business. So we might say monthly. It works out the pro rata of the month, 3 months, 30 grand in total. We go weekly, 15 weeks, 2,000, so it comes to the same amount. If they come into roughly the same amount, it means that you've got your numbers right for your business. It means that you're gonna do well. The discount that you want to apply should be seen and present. It shouldn't be hidden in the numbers. Okay, so I go back to my details tab. It warns me if I've made changes, but in that case, we were just showing you. Down here, I can view send quote. When I press view send quote, it is going to create a PDF. Let's have a little look. The template for your emails have already been set up down in templates over here. So all of the main content of that email body will already be done. It's going to create the PDF that you want to see and let you see it as an example. I can click on that there. There's all of the template that you put in there with the items, with the grand total, with the terms and conditions in there. It looks nice and tidy, easy to understand, and it is just a quote at this stage. When I click send, I won't do that because it's going to go off to one of our developers here. It will send them an email. They will be able to open the PDF, and if they want to accept, they press accept and they sign the screen. Really, really easily done. When we come back then, the quote, the sent to the client quote, let me just change the quote numbers around so that you can see the last one. Okay, page 7, there's the quote that we've just sent. The status will change from pending. We can manually do that. If you get a phone call saying, yeah, I want to go ahead with this, you can change the status yourself from pending to accepted, declined, cancelled, or sent to client. In this case, I'm going to change it to accepted. And at that point, it's going to ask me to assign the actual asset. We don't want to assign the actual asset at the quote stage because you want to quote up for 10 to 100 times as many assets as you actually have, because you're not going to be successful in every single quote. At this point, the asset is put on to the contract and the contract is built. That takes us on to the next video in the series, which you can view shortly.